Good morning, friends. Time for the hands-free drive to work, because in Georgia you can't hold your phone while you drive and it would be unsafe to do so anyway. So just press play this morning, and as you drive into work, I want to help you think differently, because we know that we'll never act differently when you want to be successful. We want to act successfully. We cannot act successfully until we start to decide differently, and we can't decide differently until we start to think differently. So hopefully this morning, this will be a help to you be able to think differently. So yesterday we actually talked about the fact that a met need, when we're working, a met need necessarily precedes any profits or incentives that come back to us. I hope Sam Glucksberg's research proved to you that you'll be more productive and engaged if you realize, if you think differently, if you think and know that a met need necessarily precedes profits or incentives that come back to me. If we know that's true, we think differently, which causes us to decide differently, which causes us to act differently. So I want to try to drive that point home a little further today, really quickly. So we're going to try to remember that again, so it drives it into our brains that's how we're going to be thinking as we work today. And so I want to use an example that cost me a whole lot of money, because before I was in the insurance business and before I was an entrepreneur, then I actually went to medical school. And so in medical school, we learned about a lot of the fascinating processes of the body. One of the most fascinating processes in the entire human body to me is that of childbirth. Childbirth is incredible. I got to experience it, secondhand, 3 times. We have 3 little girls, as you know, and Allie actually did all the work, but I got to be there and watch. So in childbirth, I want you to think about this. In childbirth, as the baby grows, it puts pressure on the mother's cervix. And as the baby comes down and is ready to be born, the pressure on the cervix makes the body secrete a hormone called oxytocin. And that hormone causes the uterus to contract. Oxytocin is released, the uterus contracts, and then it causes more pressure on the cervix. When there's more pressure on the cervix, then it causes more oxytocin to be released, and then the uterus contracts, and then the cervix causes more pressure, and then it causes more. You see the process. It's a feedback loop. So as this loop continues over and over again, that's what causes the baby to be born. So imagine a physician who became very intrigued by that entire feedback loop. If this physician was so enthralled and so concerned with this feedback loop and how it worked and how to manipulate this feedback loop, because we have learned how to manipulate the feedback loop. We can give a woman Pitocin, which is artificial oxytocin, and it starts to speed that process along. Think about this. We're going to draw some conclusions here in a second. So as a physician, if they became so engulfed in that feedback loop, but they forgot that there was a precious life that was the entire purpose of the whole thing, if they forgot that the baby being born was actually the point, we would think that physician was a sociopath. Yes? Of course you would. They would be so engulfed in the process, in the feedback loop, that they literally forgot about the fact that a child is the point. A baby being born healthy is the entire point of the process. So, you may have heard of Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman is an economist who a lot of universities use his textbook to talk about business and how to do business and how economies work. And Milton Friedman said the only social responsibility of business is shareholder profit. That's the only responsibility of business. He said everything we do should be to artificially inject information, thoughts, decision making. Everything should drive us back to what creates the most profit. Now, we said if a physician did that and forgot that the whole point was giving life, we would think that they were off base. However, a lot of us have bought into Milton Friedman's way of working, hook, line, and sinker. A lot of us have taken that to the extreme and said not just the only social responsibility of business at large is shareholder profit, but the only responsibility of my work is my own incentives or my own profits. And what has happened is we forget that life giving, the giving of life, is the thing that always was the point with work. The profits and incentives are a necessary part of the process, just like Pitocin and oxytocin and uterine contractions are all important parts of the birthing process. However, the entire point is that life is given. If a physician begins to steer themselves through the birthing process, with the number one point being to manipulate the oxytocin uterine contraction cycle, they would not be thinking correctly. That's obvious. We think, yeah, of course, good grief. However, if we began to look at our work only considering, and the main point of our consideration and the main focus of our thoughts are the profits and incentives that come back to us, we are doing the exact same thing. So let's change the way we think. It will change the way we make decisions and ultimately change the way we act. Let's put our focus on the met need that necessarily precedes any profits or incentives. That met need will create profits that we're able to meet more needs with, that we're able to provide for our families with. But that met need is always the point. It always has been. It always will be with work. Again, I know a lot of times we'll say, yeah, well, yeah, I get that. It's pretty. I kind of see that. I pretty much see it. I'm pretty much doing that. But at the end of the day, when I ask everybody over and over again, why do you work? The first answer is never to meet a need. The first answer of a good obstetrician, a good doctor who delivers babies, the first answer, if you ask them, why do you work? They should say, at first and foremost, so that babies are born. What is the purpose of your work? So that life is given. They should absolutely say that. And if they don't, if they were to say, well, it's to manipulate the Pitocin and oxytocin feedback loop, we would think, we would be like, what are you talking about? However, when I ask people, why do you work? Over and over again, I hear the same answers. To provide for my family, to make money so that we can be comfortable, so that I can even be fulfilled, so I can be happy. All those things are good, all those things are necessary, but until we meet a need, until we realize and think differently, until we think a met need is the reason for my work, I'll never be as productive and engaged as I could be. Man, I hope this today, just listen to this and reminding yourself of this, helps you navigate yourself, steer yourself through the weeds of work. And we'll keep on doing it every day that we can. Appreciate you listening on the Hands Free Ride to Work.